episode 70-something of the Unscripted Company Podcast. Riley, keep me honest. Is this episode 76?
It is episode 76.
Episode 76 of one of the fastest growing podcasts on the internet. Coming to you live, kind of half live from Nashville, Tennessee. That is the Nashville skyline, at least part of it. Behind me, I am on location, scouting for new Applebee's to help partner with the Unscripted Company Podcast. For those of you who may not be aware, if you hit up your local Applebee's in the late night hours, tell them Riley and JK from the Unscripted Company Podcast sent you, and they will hook you up with half price appetizers at select Applebee's. Let them know. Eat good in the neighborhood. Man,
Eating good.
Eating good. Before we get to the question of the week, I'll toss it over to you, Riley, here in a second. Just funny observation. I flew into Nashville today, and my flight was delayed, flying out of Austin today. You want to know why it was delayed? I told you before we hopped on, but I'll let you guess anyways.
Because it's still flooding in Texas.
Dude, it is still, we had torrential downpours overnight yesterday into this morning, and some of those same rivers that flooded last weekend. And for those of you who either didn't watch or come hang out with us last week or who have been under a rock, the hill country of Texas, just kind of west of the Austin area, got absolutely hammered by floods. They call it Flash Flood Alley. I never knew that. I learned that, and that's a fun fact. But it's because a lot of the river systems out there, they're naturally typically pretty dry. And once you get west of Austin, west of the I-35 corridor, a lot of the soil, there actually isn't any because it's all limestone underneath. You get maybe a couple inches of soil and then boom, you basically hit rock. So whenever heavy rains come in, the soil itself doesn't ever soak up the water. It just keeps running. And when the rivers fill up and they go over the dams, and yes, I'm glad you pulled that up. Literally this storm system, I'm not going to say it came out of nowhere, but it just keeps dumping water on Texas, which in a weird way is a good thing. It's good that we're getting this water. At least the part of Central Texas I'm in, we're officially out of a drought. We are not in a drought for the first time in many years. The whole joke is Texas is in a perpetual drought. Well, much of the Austin area is not in a drought anymore because we've gotten so much water. There is a community called Sandy Creek, and a lot of people who have heard about these Texas floods, they hear about Kerrville, and they probably heard maybe about Georgetown. Kerrville got hit the hardest in terms of just
several days as we are seeing
pure economic disaster. But there's this community just west of Leander, Texas. It technically has a Leander address called Sandy Creek. And I wasn't aware of this. And I'm actually kind of literally right around the corner from Sandy Creek in a sense. And I did not realize the devastation that some of these little communities that the news just didn't pick up on has had. They're still trying to find bodies. And because of the rain today, they had to postpone a lot of the search and rescue efforts because the water was just moving so fast. They can't have divers down there looking for bodies. And they're still, I don't know the current number. I want to say it's hundreds of bodies.
The last Wikipedia said 104. But
that sounds about right.
But I think it's actually, when you look at just the news stations, I think they said it was actually up to 110 plus, 115 plus.
It might be. I know one of the problems they've run into in terms of having a hard time identifying how many missing people there truly are is because a lot of these places that got impacted in the hill country were vacation spots. And so, it's easy to see who's missing in terms of the local population. But if you're visiting from, I don't know, North Carolina and you're visiting Kerrville, the city of Kerrville probably isn't aware that you're there and that you're missing to then go look for you, right?
Yeah.
And so I know they have a hard time even trying to figure out, the girls' camp, was it Camp Mystic that hit the news because it was so devastating with all the little girls and whatnot. All of them were accounted for in the sense of the camp knew who was there, but all those girls came from different parts of the country. Yeah, some came from Texas, but they came from all over the place.
Yeah.
So anyways, interesting observation. It also was raining in Nashville when I landed, so I was hoping I was going to escape the rain, but it's still raining. So with that being said, you want to go to the question of the week?
Yeah.
Unless is there anything you want to talk about first?
No. The total confirmed deaths is 129. They still have 166 missing people, and out of those
Ooh,
129 deaths, 103 are from Kerr County.
that's crazy.
So just that one county and this is, yeah, it's insane. And like I was, before we hopped on, like I said, I went to go visit family yesterday, and while I was there, we had a storm system that came through, and it poured down, and then it stopped. And then my plan was to leave at like 6 or 7 o'clock, be home by like 8 or 9. You know, just because like I don't like driving late at night anymore. I just don't like it, especially out in those areas because you get a lot of wildlife, deer, all
Yeah,
that kind of
that's
stuff.
true. Yeah.
And so I just don't like doing it. And funny enough, a deer actually did run across the run across the
Of
road.
course.
So,
Of course
I
they
was
did.
like, okay. But as soon as I'm getting ready to leave, I didn't leave till 9 o'clock. Like a lot of it was because the food, like we were waiting on the food to be done. It was all barbecue stuff, so it's like we had to wait for the smokers and all that kind of stuff. So didn't get to eat till late. And I had family in from out of state, so when you get all them together and the drinking starts, it just,
Yep.
it's redneck family. What are you gonna do?
Let the good
Um,
times roll.
yep. And so finally I've said bye to everyone. And I was outside saying bye to my parents, and as I'm saying bye to them, large raindrops just start coming, and then as soon as I got into my car, it just started pouring down on my car, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, because everyone was telling me to stay the night, and I was like, no, like I can't, like I need to get home.
Yeah.
And so um I literally was driving down Highway 24, and I had to have my flashers on and my brights on, and even with my windshield wipers going full speed, I still could barely see. And I got stuck in this when I got off of Highway 24. I got stuck in this divot that kept causing me to like
Oh,
hydroplane
yeah.
almost the entire way until I got into Greenville. And I was like, so I had to, like, instead of going 70, I was going 60 miles an hour just to, keep straight. And but yeah, it was insane. Like it was awful. And then it kind of slowed down and it picked right back up. And I was also too, because it was a squall line. So like I was watching out for possible tornadoes and all that kind of stuff too. I didn't know if anything like that would hit, but
Yeah.
you never
Especially at
know.
night because you can't see it and it's raining. Like that's like
Yeah.
the worst situation.
Yep.
That's like what nightmares are made of.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, but I made it home. Didn't get home until like 11:30, almost midnight last night. And
I'm sure your
then
cats appreciated that you got there.
yeah, and then they couldn't deal with another another loss. And so but then I didn't go to bed till like 1:30 or 2 this morning, and I woke up in the middle of the night, couldn't go back to sleep. It was one of those exhausting days, but yeah, it started pouring down here, and apparently there's flooding in Paris as well. Like I don't know what's
Yeah.
going on in Texas right now. The daggum weather seeds.
Have you seen the I don't know his name, but he's got like a mullet. He's been going on all these podcasts and news stations recently because he's apparently the CEO of that cloud seeding company that's operating down in South Texas.
Is he the guy that he also has a podcast?
No, I don't think he himself has a podcast, but he's been on a ton of podcasts recently. It's been very weird. It's a legitimate company, I believe. I don't know if it's like a front for anything, but is it raining? It is raining. No, but he is a CEO for a cloud seeding company that operates somewhere in like South Texas. I say South Texas, like a little bit like southwest of San Antonio, I believe. And ever since the Kerrville flood happened, he has just all of a sudden popped up on all, like, sometimes you can tell when someone's agent or like manager has them go on like a podcast circuit, like how they become like the guests on all these podcasts kind of within the same like 3 to 4 weeks. It's kind of been like that for him. I think the first one I saw him on, he was like on the Sean Ryan podcast. And then he went on Tim Pool's podcast. And then I think he was like on some that guy, Mullet Man. I don't even know if that's technically a mullet. See, like he's on CNN too. And it's very interesting because my brain goes a couple different directions with this, in the sense that, there's the old saying, any press is good press. And here we'll listen to this.
When it comes to your wireless
right
plan,
after this
don't settle
straight
for
talk
less.
ad. But I'll try to set it up real quick. It's interesting because, like, yeah, he's a CEO of a cloud seeding company, and they have that old saying of, any press is good press, right? So if there's conspiracies about, manufacturing or manipulating the weather that caused the floods in Texas, and his company happens to, manipulate weather events, might as well try to get ahead of it by going on podcasts and news stations and things like that. But at the same time, I can't help but wonder, like, the timing of this is so eerie. Like, if you are the one that is seeding weather, and see, Daddy Stream in the comments says it definitely wasn't a very convincing
for people in Texas. What we're also seeing is people latching onto a conspiracy that cloud seeding is what has caused the deadly floods that we saw play out last Friday. Cloud seeding, for people who don't know, is the process where a plane or a drone scatters tiny compounds into the sky to try to trigger rain or snow. The practice is sometimes used to create rain in dry areas. It generally produces minimal results, nothing like the 15 inches of that torrential rain that we saw hitting Kirk County on Friday. But that hasn't stopped what we've seen play out online, in spite of conspiracies surrounding the floods, including leading some lawmakers on the right to call for a ban on the process together. Look at what Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia said today. She said that cloud seeding should be a felony offense and, quote, we must end the dangerous and deadly practice of weather modification and geoengineering. Her bill to do that is co-sponsored by Congressman Tim Burchett of Tennessee.
People are saying we're conspiracy theorists, but, you don't patent a conspiracy. And these things have been patented, they've been proven they do it. I'm big on God and just letting him work his magic, not people trying to play God.
My source tonight is Augustus Dorico, the founder of Rainmaker, which is a cloud seeding startup that carried out a job about 100 miles south of Kirk County 2 days before the July 4th storm. And it's great to have you here tonight, because I want to give you a chance to respond to what we heard from those lawmakers. But just first, to give people a sense of what this has meant for you and for your employees, can you describe what the last few days have been like for you?
Absolutely. And thank you so much for having me. First and foremost, my heart goes out to all of the people in Texas, particularly the families that were directly affected by the natural disaster. Even though cloud seeding had nothing to do with it, we can get into the details of that. People online have accused both me and Rainmaker of having caused the floods, when cloud seeding unequivocally cannot induce precipitation, even nearly on the scale of what came from the remnants of Tropical Storm Barry. Most people that we've engaged with in good faith, trying to transparently share information with, have been very receptive, and to them, I'm grateful. I am praying for my family constantly. I'm praying for myself. There have been threats leveled against us, most of which I think are incredible. But I'm grateful to be on here tonight just to set the record straight and clarify what cloud seeding can do, so that people stop accusing Rainmaker and my family of having contributed to the floods.
You're positive for
Yeah,
something?
and I think a lot of people don't even know what cloud.
I feel like this is the face of someone that an intelligence agency would strategically place in a company that they would want to have their hands entangled in, Because if you're going to have a fall guy for something that's catastrophic, that's the face of something that you can be the fall guy for a catastrophe.
But he looks so innocent.
That's the thing, I think, is like, and I've seen some people come out and talk about how this guy is not credentialed to even be talking about this. Like, he is technically, yes, the CEO of a company.
But most CEOs don't really handle the scientific aspect of it. Like, you're just kind of managing where things need to go.
Exactly. But I'm also just like, how did this guy get to the position he's in? He also looks super young. Like, how I'm gonna look this up. How young is this guy? Like, is he our age?
Let's find out.
Let's see here. Rainmaker Augustus. We have a page on Cornell.
He is.
Doesn't have a Wikipedia page yet, unfortunately.
He's 25 years old.
That's what I'm saying.
He's younger than both of us.
How do you get into a position like this with a company like Rainmaker at 25 years old? Who's funding this? How did he fund this? How does any 25-year-old become a CEO of like a legitimate company like this?
That's the question.
That's the question. I think that's the conspiracy. It's not the cloud seeding, because yes, we know that like factually does happen. Daddy stream in the comments, Mama and Daddy's money got him there. Very possible. I mean, with
Well,
a
I
name like
was-
Augustus, I'm sure his dad was like, he ran an empire somewhere. I'm sure his daddy's a Vanderbilt.
They said he may reside in somewhere in Texas now, but it says that the office is in California.
It makes sense because they are operating in South Texas, which is
Yeah.
kind of how this whole conspiracy started. Was, they are, I don't know what the technical term is, seeding clouds, manipulating weather
Yeah.
events in Texas. So that might be why he might be living in Texas at the moment.
But here's the thing, though, and we can, if you want to, we can finish this. But so they said that this storm was remnants of Tropical Storm Barry
Yeah.
that hit Mexico. But but when you look at it, though, that storm kind of dissipated, and then all of a sudden you just see this big blow up on like in the middle of Texas. So it's like, if that was remnants from that storm, then how did it blow up to just that?
Yeah, I saw a TikTok a while back of like, it's kind of interesting because I saw like a meteorologist, I think out of Dallas. It wasn't Pete Delkus, but I saw someone kind of explaining from like a meteorologist. I always struggle to say this word on the podcast. I can say it perfectly fine outside of the podcast. A meteorologist explaining what happened, and basically, if how I remember correctly, you got Tropical Storm Barry that came up from the south from Mexico, and then you had this like really small. It was either low or high pressure, I forget which, that developed around Lubbock. And it was so insignificant that no one really thought too much of it. But apparently it kind of butted heads with Barry and caused that weather pattern just to sit there. And that's how it just kind of sat there and just rotated over the hill country. Definitely fact check that, look that up. But it seemed pretty legit the way he explained it. And I was like, okay, this kind of makes sense the way it happened. But at the same time, you can't help but wonder the other experiments and tests and things that are going on in the atmosphere, like, did that even remotely play a role? Not saying that it was the sole cause of it,
Right.
but did it play any role in enhancing the event? Let's just say that.
I think for Texas, that doesn't get very many tropical storms. Like, very rarely have like,
well, on like that side of the state too, like, because the Gulf Coast gets them all the time, like Houston, Corpus, Galveston, etc. But like when you get out to West Texas, like, yeah, you get the remnants of stuff, but it didn't linger around like that. Yeah, it didn't linger around like that. It's more just like a light afternoon of showers by the time it gets west of Austin.
But when you have more deaths from this than you've had from some tornado, actually most tornadoes,
a lot of other things
this year.
Yeah.
Because like, I don't even think the hurricane that hit Georgia and Tennessee and all those, I don't think that had this many deaths.
I have no idea.
So I don't know.
Yeah. Other things conspiratorial that happened this week. I don't know if you follow this. Have you been following the Epstein file, the client list?
Yeah, apparently they're like shredding the files or something like that. Like, they're done with it now.
It's so wild because the way I understand it to go down, and someone in the comments, please correct me if I misconstrue this in any way. Basically, there's been rumors for a long time, ever since Epstein got arrested, before he apparently killed himself, allegedly, that he had a client list, as most people in business do, right? There's a client list of who you do business with. And I think it's something that even like Trump ran on in his second term, was like, to be transparent, dig into this, look into it. And, yeah, just like Dash was saying, like, yeah, that's the latest excuse, and I'll get into that here in a second. Basically, that Pam Bondi, the Attorney General for the United States, was quoted at one point. She said that she had the list on her desk, and now she's backtracking on that. The Trump administration's come out and said there is no list. The Department of Justice is no longer pursuing this case, saying that there is no list. There's no reason to pursue this case anymore, and we're just supposed to forget about it. Like, it's just crazy that, and they even released the footage. They released the apparent footage that I think we all remember, unless it's like some weird Mandela effect, that they told us point blank for years that the footage did not exist, right? That the footage, the cameras didn't work, something happened with the footage. But then they released the footage almost in its entirety, but there's like a minute or two missing from it. And apparently it's totally normal for a minute or two to be missing from this footage, this type of footage at least. And like, Trump even came out and said that this was all something that like Obama and the Clintons like drummed up to cause drama and conspiracy.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just like, we're definitely not supposed to see what's on that list. I think that's all it is. It's so wild. I think it's basically just those in power are conveying to other people that are also in power in other places in the world that we got your back. You don't have to worry about this information getting out. And it's wild because there's been other times in history that the federal government and just governments in general dictate what the narrative is. And the populace, you and I and everyone else on this podcast, are just supposed to go along with it. And they accept that is mainstream history. But the problem is, back in the day when they do that, the internet didn't exist. You didn't have mass telecommunications where information could be easily distributed amongst the masses the way that it can now. And so I think they're trying to use this old like 19th and 20th century playbook in the 21st century. And it doesn't work because everything, once it's on the internet, it's there. And so we're able to go back and reference things that historically you wouldn't be able to. Anyways, there's a list.
There is a list.
There are people on the list that, and then you have to wonder if there's a country in the Middle East. You have to wonder where Israel is implicated in all of this. So,
well, I mean, there was, like I said, when you kind of look at just everything as a whole, Diddy got acquitted of all his charges.
Yeah, that was also very weird.
Which I didn't expect that. If they were really looking for a scapegoat, that was the perfect person to take the fall for everything.
Yeah, I thought they were going to make him the fall guy. I thought they were going to like put him away, but try to stack everything on him in a weird sense.
Right.
But then you have to wonder, like, did he have anything that caused them not to be able to do that? You know, like what?
I mean, they could have done the same thing to him as they did Epstein.
Yeah,
just all but one charge.
All but one charge. What Daddy Streaming put in the comments. It's very weird.
Yeah,
it's very weird.
But like when we talked about like the Hawaii and the fires, like were they trying to make a secondary island? Like, was that going to become the next island?
Yeah.
But like, again, we don't know. We haven't heard anything about that. Or
there's a conspiracy in Kerrville with the Hill Country stuff. Cause like if you Google Kerrville 2030, they have this like master plan initiative and everything. And so people are like, yeah, they had to like destroy the riverfront properties to make it a thing. I don't know. I think that might be a weird correlation of things because most towns do have like a master plan of what they envision for themselves. And I know like as the Hill Country becomes more and more of a tourist town, like Fredericksburg, which is like their neighbor to the north, Fredericksburg's basically become like the Aspen of Texas. It's like super high end now and it's not cheap to live there. Kerrville's kind of next on the list for things like that. But it makes you wonder.
It does make you
wonder.
So let me go ahead and do the question before we get too far. Because I know, let's see here. Okay. Would you rather switch places with your most recent intrusive thought or have to explain it live on air to a room full of grandparents?
Wait, say that one more time.
So would you rather switch places with your most recent intrusive thought? So whatever your most recent intrusive thought was, you switch places with that thought and that's what you become, I guess. Or you have to explain it live on air or in person to a room full of grandparents, so like elderly people.
I could explain my thoughts to elderly people. It'd be like an interesting sounding board or, what's the term? Think tank. It could be like a think tank, you know?
Okay.
Yeah. What about you? What do you think?
Everything in me now, based on recent events, wants to switch places with my most recent intrusive thought. But for sake of the podcast, I'm probably going to go the same direction.
so we know your true answer.
Yeah,
that's now being recorded.
Well, so it's also an emotional answer. 95% of decisions are based on emotion. So if I had to make the decision based on an emotion, it would be that. But for sake of the podcast and take all the emotion away, the same thing.
So if most decisions are made on emotion, have you ever thought that maybe you think maybe people would be more likely to buy a house if you point a gun at them?
I wish. But here's the thing though. That's the kicker.
So you've thought about this?
No.
Premeditated?
No, I have not. You go buy this. I got bills to pay.
I could see that.
No. So when they talk about like, so Zillow Flex has kind of had like all these percentages. They say they have it all mapped out. I'm just going to say right now, I feel like they don't know what they're talking about because they're not the ones.
That's a safe bet.
They're the ones that aren't the boots on the ground seeing and hearing it. But apparently they collect all the data. I don't understand.
Yeah.
But no one, statistically speaking, no one buys their first house that they see. Like you're not unless you go to a new build and that salesperson is just so good and you're like, oh my God, this is amazing, great. But then you don't realize that you're still going to be paying for all that stuff on the back end somewhere. Like, so it's,
you still might tour a couple models too before.
Right. Yeah. And then look and see kind of like the different prices and what they can offer.
Yeah.
But be that as it may, I think they said the percentage is like 70% of people don't buy their first home, like the first home they look at. But if you show them two homes, that percentage, or no, they're 68% likely to put an offer in on the first home. But I can't remember how it goes. Anyways, that percentage substantially goes up the more homes that you show them. And the thing is, I've talked with people and I've had conversations with people. I'm like, oh, you can just imagine, you're here on Thanksgiving or on the holidays, like, you kind of have the setup going on here and everything. But I try to like cater to like, when it's like a husband and wife and like the husband is into sports, I'm like, oh, you could turn this into a man cave or something. I try to cater to that emotional side of things, but then it never works for me. And I'm like, all right, you gonna buy this house, like right.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, that's just, I've never understood that because they say 95% of decisions are based on emotions, but a lot of people deny that they're making it because when you're buying a house, like it's not just an emotional decision, but it's also a financial decision. So it's like, you got the best of both worlds. So I guess that's kind of where that offsets at. So.
Well, I didn't have a chance to look at if you left any notes. Is there anything you want to hit on?
Yeah, I actually I put stuff on there, and I even put a couple things from last week that we didn't get to talk about.
Daddy Stream in the comments. Imagine struggling for the next year to save up again after draining your savings, but at least you've gotten a slice of that American dream.
Facts. That's actually what I'm going to be starting to save up for once I find a job. For those of you listening, I'm not quitting real estate. I need to have some supplemental income for the time being. So still hit me up if you want to go look at houses. So I didn't get to talk about this. There's actually two things I didn't get to talk about last week that I put on the notes. The first one is Carmelo Anthony, our good old friend. So apparently his family had already spent all $500,000 they had gotten, all of it.
Dang, it's a lot of Happy Meals.
Now they're asking for another $1 million in donations for legal fees ahead of the murder trial because he's already been indicted. They indicted him like a week ago, 2 weeks ago,
something like that. Yeah,
and apparently, so I'm trying to see. Let me kind of go down. Let me see.
When you say they're asking for $1 million, are they asking like the public to donate, like the way they got the first, like a GoFundMe type thing?
Yes. So Carmelo once had private legal representation, but his father said the family could no longer sustain those costs. Now he's relying on the court system for a public defender.
Shouldn't they do a bake sale?
Right. I'm not so sure people would buy those baked goods.
I don't know.
As the case moves closer to trial, the shift has raised eyebrows, especially after the family raised more than $500,000 through crowdfunding platforms. Their most recent fundraising goal is $1.4 million. So
that's so much money.
Yeah.
But I get it. Like lawyers aren't cheap.
And they said they question where the money has gone. In response, the Anthony families explained that the donations have supported various emergency expenses, from legal fees to trauma counseling, relocation after threats, transportation to court, and basic living costs. These funds are being used to cover essential and urgent needs. Drew wrote, stressing that their situation extends beyond the courtroom. They reduced his bond. However, prosecutors clarified that because he was 17 at the time of the indictment, he won't face the death penalty. So, if anything, he'll just get life in prison. Or something like that. Meanwhile, the family of Austin Metcalf continues to process their own grief. Jeff Metcalf, Austin's father, that he would have supported the death penalty had Carmelo been 18 at the time.
Yikes.
It's the law, unfortunately, he said, noting that the timing changed everything. As both families brace for what lies ahead, the Anthony say the legal and emotional toll has only grown, with bills rising and the public pressure mounting. They're asking for continued support to keep fighting on multiple fronts. Well, here's the thing. You're asking for the support to continue fighting, but the video, if it shows what we think it's going to show, it blatantly shows that there was no prior altercation to him getting stabbed.
What if it shows something totally out of left field that no one has thought about?
That could be the case. We don't know.
Yeah, I doubt that. I'm just, throwing out wild accusations.
Right. So they're asking for $1 million+ in donations again.
I would like $1 million+ in donations.
Me too.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
Applebee's only covers so much
I know.
with the show budget, but man, if we had $1 million,
Yep.
have you seen? There's a guy, I forget what his name is. He's like a stand-up comic or like a prop comic, and this video, I don't know when he actually ended up recording it. It might have been a couple years ago, but it's gone viral multiple times. Where he explained how him and his buddy used to sue each other on like Judge Judy and Judge Joe Brown and like these TV judges. Because do you know how those shows work? Like the TV judges, they basically go to like small claims courts and they find people who are willing to basically come on the show, and they basically sign saying they'll honor whatever the payout is or the punishment is from these like TV judges, right? Because it's always just like financial or like moral kind of. And so what they would do is they basically sue each other in small claims court. Just two friends. It'd be like if you and I just sued each other, but we knew the counties and the courtrooms that these scout teams went for like Judge Judy and Judge Joe Brown and all these shows. And so you actually end up making money because you'd be on the show, and then we just split the payout winnings together. So you'd actually make a profit by suing each other. And he showed clips. Like he showed how they were on the show multiple times, like just slightly different dress and costumes and facial hair. So like if you were just watching the show casually, you'd have no idea they're the same people.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting. I knew some of that, but I didn't know all of that. Interesting.
Yeah, this is also one of those guys where he'll just go on these like fake job interviews and just completely bomb it and make the situation as awkward as possible. But yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Did you know that Bill Gates is opening an energy company and starting construction in Wyoming?
That doesn't surprise me. Wyoming's an interesting pick, so I'm curious what kind of energy.
Nuclear.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, and he says that he believes it will revolutionize how power is generated. So apparently this was last year that this started, around this time last year. But nothing's really come about it yet currently now. Apparently they're still constructing it, building it, everything like that. But seeing as where it's at in Wyoming, I mean, there's not a lot of population around that area. So it's perfect for the location.
Yeah. Nuclear is an interesting one, right? Because theoretically it is like clean, somewhat infinite energy in a sense. We have a lot of these preconceived notions because we've seen Chernobyl, of course, 3 Mile Island. We've seen these like horrific meltdowns that will forever alter the face of this planet until we get like 1 million generations down the road. But at the same time, nuclear energy has come a long way. It's the safest it's ever been.
Yeah.
But there's still room for error, right? And so it's an interesting one where we're scared to even attempt it because we've seen what happens when it ultimately goes wrong. But at the same time, if monitored and built correctly, and I don't know what the right term would be, but maintained the way it should, it's some of the cleanest, best energy sources you could wish for.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird.
It really is. I think when they were doing nuclear stuff, with all the Chernobyl stuff and everything, I just think that they were way ahead of where they should have been. I mean, granted, you do have to theorize and try things out and work on certain things before you actually know where you're going to be at. But no one could also prepare for a full meltdown of that reactor. Like nobody could, you know.
And it was a different time too, because like it was the Cold War, and this was Russia. Russia didn't want to admit fault in this because it made them look bad. And so I think by them trying to sweep it under the rug, it made things even worse. For those listening, if you ever get bored, HBO had a really good, I guess, like docuseries, like a mockumentary on Chernobyl. I think it was like 6 parts, something like that.
Yeah.
Very good, very depressing. But I digress.
Every time I think of Chernobyl, I think of the movie Chernobyl Diaries.
Oh yeah,
And
that's the horror movie, right?
I think there's just like humanoid cannibals, deformed cannibals that are just living there.
Yeah.
And
I remember we used to watch like the old Vice documentaries. Shane Smith and them. Shane Smith, yeah. They would go out to like Chernobyl and all those fun ones, sneak into North Korea and who knows what else, all those shenanigans.
It's insane, man. I could not do all that. So he's working on all that. He's like, this is a big step towards abundant zero carbon energy, Gates said, and it's important for the future of this country that projects like this succeed. Now I could see why also too, because it's like, I watched this, I haven't actually seen the show just because I don't have Paramount Plus, but Landman. And so I've watched I've watched so many scenes on YouTube that I pretty much have the whole first season watched. like I don't even have to actually watch the show. And he was having a conversation with one of the women while they were out at one of the wind turbines.
Oh yeah, I know the scene you're talking about.
Yeah, and he was talking about how he said that all we have right now is oil and gas, and that's all that we have to sustain us, and they don't even know what's even going to replace it. Like they've been trying to figure out what's going to replace it for the last 30, 40, maybe even 50 years. And they don't even know what's going to replace it. Like, so when she was like, well, wind energy is better than this, but she didn't understand that it takes oil to power that also, and to lubricate it and to do all the different things.
Just to manufacture the pieces.
Yeah. The pieces
Transport
themselves.
pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when the way he said that, like he played that role so well, and just listening to him, it sounded like I was like, oh dang, he knows what he's talking about. Like, because that's true. It's like what I'm not saying we're going to run out of oil and gas. I mean, that's why they frack and that's why they do all the different things that they do. But it's like, realistically, what is going to replace oil and gas? Because EV's not going to do it, because you need oil and gas to build that stuff too.
Yeah. It's a tricky one. Like I realistically don't even have a guess. I think it's something that you have to reinvent the whole concept of how an engine is built, right? So, because even with like electric, oil and gas aside, you still have to have sources to have charge in the battery, like lithium and nickel and copper and silver and things like that, which are finite resources, and we'll still have the same problem. Like, it's always fun to look up images of like cobalt mines and like lithium mines, and like they're just giant holes in the ground. They look like quarries, basically.
Yeah.
And so, people are worried about drilling, but at the same time, it's like, would you rather have a giant pit somewhere? And then there's like horrific stories about, I think it's cobalt miners, basically slave labor in a sense. And it's very dangerous work. And it's, when you're messing with, same with like how coal mining back in the day, coal mining still today is still, dangerous by definition, but like, you'd have like miners lung and things like that. We have just modern versions of that with like cobalt mines and things like that. And when you have like really young children and mothers and just people that probably shouldn't be working in the mines in these countries not called America, it's very sad.
Right.
And I know there's other wrongdoings in this world, but yeah, I don't know what that next energy source is. I really don't know. Do you remember like in the early 2000s when we were like young, the whole narrative was like, oh, maybe we could run our cars on corn, because like corn syrup and like corn byproduct and things like that. Yeah. And that was the narrative for a while too, and that narrative died away. And then people were like, well, what if we run it on like recycled like fryer grease and oil? Because remember, like you can't do it technically.
Yeah.
Can you do it at scale? No, because you don't have enough like grease at scale to run it that way.
Yeah.
Plus, that would put McDonald's as like the number one gas station on the planet at that point. I don't know how that would happen, but
Well, at the end of the day, hopefully we're not here to have to deal with that. So
yeah, I mean, hopefully not. Hopefully not. I did see in the news, rumors are circulating after WWE's most recent a premium live event. Apologies. Yep, Daddy streaming. There's a lot of corn out there. There's a fact. I did see rumors circulating here. I'll throw it up on the screen. Have you seen the rumors about John Cena's final opponent potentially being your boy Gunther?
So is it going to be a title versus title match, or is it going to be Gunther's going to take his title, or
I don't know. Could be a unification potentially. I don't know.
Are they going to? But here, I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know
because didn't they just have? I didn't watch it, but didn't like Gunther just beat Goldberg in his final match?
Yeah, but
they're building him up. They're building him up.
Build him up to tear him down.
Maybe.
Because, like, I mean, let's be honest here. Goldberg is, like, I don't like the idea. Like, I get, like, when you're kind of playing off, like, the storyline. Because, I mean, technically speaking, all that time ago when Gunther disrespected Goldberg's son, and then this comes up now. So it's like, they showed, like, something happened, like, years ago. Where he got in his son's face when he was younger. And Goldberg didn't like that. And so then, you know.
Happens.
And it just so happens to be his last match in his retirement match. I don't like how they did that because it's like, this is John Cena's retirement tour, but yet you're just like, yeah, we'll just throw Goldberg's last retirement match into here as well and stuff like. It's like he should have been done wrestling a long time ago. I'm just saying, but it's a money grab. That's how they do it. And I didn't expect him to win anyways. I'll be honest, what I expected to happen was that he was going to win and then Seth Rollins was going to come down and cash in his Money in the Bank briefcase. But then he actually got hurt. Seth Rollins actually got hurt. So he's actually going to be out for a prolonged period of time. He hurt his knee.
I saw that. He like tweaked his knee.
Yeah. So there's that. But with Gunther and Cena, I don't know how I feel about that.
Who would you pick?
Edge.
Interesting.
Because they talked about that he had his match with Randy Orton. He had his match with who else did he have his match with? CM Punk.
Yeah.
And so like those were two of his rivals back in the day, and he had his matches with them. The only other person that he had a major rivalry with, I mean, he had other major ones, but one of the other top ones was Edge. You know, he had that rivalry back and forth. So I would love to see Edge come back just for one more match himself in WWE and wrestle Cena on his last, or even not even on his last match, but just a match in general. And I mean, if you want to finish it off with Gunther, that's fine, but I don't think he should. I think it should be a CM Punk thing, but also too, people are thinking that Cena is actually going to turn back to a face before he retires. Like they just because like he's already kind of quote unquote showing his like true heart again. So who knows?
Yeah. I could see that.
Yeah.
Well, time will tell.
Only time will tell.
Yeah. Well, I know we're only 40 something minutes into this. I know I kind of mentioned at the top, I'm here for business. I'm scouting out potential future Applebee's locations. For future sponsorship opportunities. So thanks again for Applebee's for flying me out to Nashville, allegedly, for this fun experience. Riley, are there any other topics that you'd like to cover? Definitely don't want to cut you off, but if there's other stuff, feel free to.
No, you're good. I mean, a lot of stuff I kind of just pulled really quick, just because I'll be honest, I didn't know at first. I didn't know what you meant by work trip hotel. I thought you had already gone on your work trip. But it's all good. Like none of it was super, super pressing or anything like that. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm pretty like, I wanted to mainly touch on those two things, that we talked about, or that I didn't just talk about last week. And then everything else I can just throw on to next week or whatever. So
all good. Next week, we'll definitely have a full 2 hour ish episode. This was just a weird one in terms of just cutting it short. I liked Daddy Stream in the comments, though. He said, speaking of picks, I'm taking Trump over Elon for the 4th of July UFC match next year at the White House. I don't know if we talked about this on the podcast at all, but the UFC and the White House did confirm that next year for America's 250th birthday, they will be doing a UFC pay-per-view on the White House lawn. Kind of dope.
Interesting.
Kind of dope.
That's going to be interesting.
With that being said, Riley, I want to give you the last words for this week. What you got for the people?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't have a super long episode. This is, still just a reminder, keep all those with the flooding in mind. It's happening in other states too. Apparently it's happening in New Mexico. It happened in South Carolina. We're having more here in Texas. And I mean, yeah, it's good that we're not in a drought anymore, but I would much rather be in a drought than lose all the people that we lost. That's never fun. Again, our hearts go out to all those families and all the people that are still missing, and just, keep those people in your prayers if they do get found sometime soon. That they're not, lost or worse, possibly dead somewhere. Just keep praying and just keep supporting the best way that you can. I know lots of organizations here in North Texas have sent stuff down there and supported and gone down there and helped. And there's just a lot of stuff going on right now in our world, and a lot of deaths and a lot of other families and stuff too. Most recently, that of people that I know. So again, just to kind of reiterate last week, this is really just your time to just hold on to your loved ones. It's never too late to, reach back out to people, just different things like that. Always, show love to people, do the best that you can, and just help out wherever it's needed. So,
well said.
Until next time.